It's the Classic and Supercars show at Sherborne Castle again, and this year is even bigger than the outstanding success of 2018. It has become so big and so impressive that it must surely be one of the finest car shows in the land. Britain's rallying great Brian Culcheth is patron of the show, and he has been inviting some of the top names from the world of motorsport to be special guests over the past few years. This year it is the turn of ex-Formula One driver Derek Bell, who is probably best known for being the winner of Le Mans an amazing 5 times during his career.
Like we're getting near the turbo now. Might be right, might be wrong.
There are parades of cars along the central spine roads throughout the day. Classic cars in their thousands, supercars, American cars, microcars, just about everything a motoring enthusiast could wish for, and all in the most beautiful surroundings. So this is a brief look at what makes up this show, and hopefully entice some of you to make the trip down to Sherborne in Dorset and actually be a participant next year.
We've got to say thanks to Lancaster Insurance. They are the main sponsor for today, and Porsche is the featured mark, as they say. We've got some very, very vintage cars down here in the area of the Castle Drive. Rally cars is predominant, the Master Road, and a lot of attention is being given to a wonderful gathering of Ferraris. They will be in one of the parades later on.
Such was the volume of cars attending that they kept on coming in for hours. The sun was shining, but then we had one of those all too familiar short, sharp summer downpours. I took the opportunity to grab a talk with a couple of the organisers to find out how this show had become so successful in such a short space of time.
Keith McGee had a show here, and I came in as a Rotarian helper. And Keith mentioned to me that he was wanting to sell the show. At the time, I was president of the Yeovil Vale Rotary Club, and we were looking for a big ticket item. We didn't have one, okay? So we could see that this show had a lot of potential. And what we did, we arranged to buy the show from Keith, and the Rotary now own it. And we've developed it, and because we've got the resources of lots of Rotarians we've got 60 Rotarians on site today, for example, and because we had access to that sort of manpower, we are able to make the show considerably bigger than what it was originally.
Could you have imagined that it was going to end up this huge when you first got involved?
I had no idea at all. But the potential of it is just enormous. Keith McGee is still involved. He's our features manager, and he's got a black book to die for, of all his contacts. And he had a show secretary called Stuart Annette, and Stuart's just a superb secretary. He is extremely well organised, and that's what you need in a show secretary. And he's got a lot of contacts as well. So we're delighted to have those two people on board, and it's helped us develop this show into what you see here today.
And I suppose getting Brian Culcheth involved as well was quite a big thing to do, wasn't it?
Yeah, we wanted patrons, and Brian Culcheth is the sole patron of the show, but his contacts, I mean, it's Brian who arranged for Derek Bell to be here today, for example. And that's a real coup for us to have a celebrity personality of that sort of stature. Delighted to have him on board today.
Stuart, how did you get roped into organising this?
Oh, I started this 16 years ago with the founder, Keith McGee, when we first came to Sherborne, and I used to bring car tours in at that stage, and Keith organised the whole show. We did it that way for 11 years, and in the last few years of that I did all the admin, and we decided we were both getting a bit too old doing it all on our own, so we passed the show on then to 3 Rotary clubs who have it now, and of course now it's run for charity, which is brilliant. So we stayed with the show, and I think after today we'll have made £200,000 for charity in the last 5 years, so we're pretty proud of that.
This has got to be heading to one of the biggest outdoor classic car shows in the country.
Well, in terms of charity, I guess it probably is, totally. Certainly in the south of England, you know, obviously you've got things like Goodwood, but when you step down from that as a one-day car show, we're pretty big.
For 1976, British Leyland made the bold announcement of a return to motorsport. Mr. Culcheth would head up the rally team, and Derek Bell would partner with Andy Rouse in a Jaguar XJ 5.3C race car prepared by Broadspeed Engineering, and within which they would contest the European Saloon Car Championship.
Well, this was a time when Derek and I were driving for British Leyland. Derek was in this real fearsome beast, the Jaguar, and I drove the TR7. Tell us a bit about the Jaguar.
Yeah, well,
Derek.
obviously I'm glad I was driving the Jaguar, although we had some quite amusing moments when wheels would go bouncing by you and realise they were your own. But apart from that, it was actually fun to drive. We had John Fitzpatrick, me, and Andy Rouse and Tim Schenkin. We had a lot of laughs, funnily enough, there's Tim there, a lot of laughs driving this car with Andy. And unfortunately, we never won a race, but we did nearly win the TT at Silverstone. And then one of my teammates stuck it off the road when we were leading just before the end, but I won't mention his name, will I, Andy? But anyway, it was fun to drive. We had some good races, but it was one of those things that should have been thought about a bit more deeply before they went into it, really.
And when you won Le Mans and you knew you'd won, how did that feel? I know there were 5 times, Derek.
Yeah, but no. But I mean, the first, to be honest, it was never a race I had a great ambition to win. I wanted to be a Grand Prix driver, like we all did. I did come through Grand Prix racing, but you wanted to win a Grand Prix. So, but when I got the chance to drive in the Mirage with John Wire, you know, I've been developing it for 3 years with the team at Woking, with John Wire with the Cosworth engine, and then to sort of we're driving with Mike Hailwood. We were 4th in '74, so to go back in '75, it was sort of a natural progression that we were going to do better. And sadly, really, I didn't win it with Mike. I won it with Jackie X, but Jackie was, I guess, in some ways a more experienced driver, and he had won Le Mans before, and there's nothing like a team having a driver that knows how to win Le Mans. Although John Wire did say prior to the race in '75, he looked at Jackie and I and he said, "You two know how to win," and I went, "But I haven't won yet, John." I did win the next day, so I guess I did know how to win. Yeah, it was very exhausting, it was very hot, there were only 2 drivers in those days, the chassis had broken, and we were so lucky to survive the race and win it, but it was very, very exciting, and it was very satisfying for the whole team, because it's a team effort, Le Mans.
And did you realise as a result of that first win you'd then be world famous forever?
Actually, let me tell you something. You're not world famous when you win it once, because a lot of people have won it once. Because when you've won it 3 times, people go, actually, he must be all right, you know. And then because you've won it 3 times, you keep getting put back in a good car. So I won it twice more. So in reality, it's wonderful to win it once, but it's better to win it 3 times, because then you start, instead of being a Le Mans winner, you actually become part of the Le Mans legend, if that's a very sort of unemotional way of putting it, really, without being conceited.
Well, I think you can go back to signing your books.
Well, Derek's already mentioned the main qualification driving for Leyland was a lot of laughs.
Yeah, we did have fun. I mean, you drove with Ralph Broad, you couldn't fail but laugh. Yeah, I mean, you can't ever tell anybody what they were like, but we had some funny times. But you had to be with Brits to understand it, and I suppose with the four of us that were driving were basically British, and then have Ralph Broad on the team. We had so many laughs. I mean, it was dead serious, but you know, when we were in the car it was, but you had to laugh, otherwise you'd have shot yourself. And on that, we'll close down on that. Thanks very much, Derek. Did you hear what he said? 1200 horsepower daily and up to 1500 if he presses the right button. And his wife looks terrified. That probably cost him $1,000. Okay. Oh, well, that rusty car. They've never raced or rallied in immaculate condition, and well done, because it looks pretty smart. Thank you.
Derek was twice World Sports Car Champion, and in addition to his 5 Le Mans wins, he also won the 24 Hours of Daytona an amazing 3 times. He was on hand all day at Sherborne, accessible to everyone, and great entertainment. A true gentleman.
It's 50 years since I sat in this same seat and did 2 rallies in Australia, 1970, and it's a great memory today to sit here in this great car. And the Mini, you know, was a real icon of the 60s, and great fun to drive, and really tough car. You cannot believe the things we did with these cars, and when you look at the ground clearance compared with a modern car behind, they're about a foot higher off the ground. We spent most of the time on the ground, but nevertheless it was great fun.
And has he done a good job of restoring this?
Oh, Paul's done a fantastic job, yeah. And he's as much in love with it as I am.
Now, you're getting ready for something here. What's happening?
Yeah, we got the rally parade, and there's 5 of my cars in the parade, 2 Dolomites, this Mini, the TR4 that I drove in the Liège, the 2.5, the replica of London, Mexico, yes.
The 1967 Mini, I put that much together. I thought you might drive it.
And then we go from the original Mini to the latest version, which is the World Rally Championship car produced by ProDrive and driven by Danny Sordo. Andy Brown here is one of the kingpins in ProDrive building the cars, and Chris Meek from Ireland, he also was a driver of this modern day rally car, which, as you can see, has considerable more ground clearance than the original Minis, which we used to spend most of the time on the ground. Thank you, Andy. Next we have the TR4. This is the works 1963 works cars. Ian Cornish here has been a great supporter of the show and the Triumph Mark, and this was a car that I did the 1964 Liège Rome Liège in, which we sadly retired with transmission trouble along with most of the other TRs in the rally, but Ian's done a great job of restoring it, and great credit to him to keep it in such great condition and going on still many miles to come out of it. Thank you, Ian. As you see, that car is 4 VC and this is 3 VC by Gareth, who's been another stalwart of the show, and hello.
Sitting next to me, worked in the competitions department as a mechanic.
Yeah, right. Well, I gather this young man next to him worked in the competition department, putting the cars together. Nice to see you, Gareth.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Peter, and you've been a great supporter of the Triumph Mark for some years, and I saw you on the historic RAC recently. But Peter, show us there the cup you've got, and this is one of the replicas of the famous Alpine Rally Cups, which if you got unpenalised on an Alpine Rally in the 60s was very hard to do, and they were much sought after award. Thank you, Peter. Now this car, I think many of you have seen before, and David here has kindly brought it along. This is the Triumph 2.5. It's a replica of the World Cup rally car, 16,000 miles, London to Mexico in 1970, and was a fantastically reliable car, great fun to drive, and David's still very much enjoying it, and unfortunately there was one car in front of us and we were the runner-up, but nevertheless the best British crew, and we won our class. Thank you, David. Works. I only did one rally in this car, and the last time I saw it upside down in the forest. You still enjoying driving it, Stuart?
Yes, I use it on a few demonstration events, and yes, it's a good car, it goes well.
Very nice to see you. Thank you very much. And this is the first of the original works Dolomite Sprints, which I drove. I did 17 rallies in this car, more rallies than I've done in any other car, and it was quite successful. We had a number of outright wins and podium places, and really good to see. And Sue here, who's the current owner, is keen to take a lot of money for it if anyone would be interested in buying it. Thanks very much for bringing it along. afternoon. Probably one of the most famous British rally cars, the Ford Escort, pain in the neck as far as I was concerned. They won too many rallies when I was in second place. Good afternoon, Alan. Now, this young man I happened to meet in a service station on the way back from Bewley recently, and he pulled into a petrol station, and I recognised the number plate immediately because my works TR7 was KDU 497N, and this is 483. So we struck up a conversation, and I'm delighted to see you here. I gather you didn't like the engine that was in it and put a Rover V8 in, is that right?
Yeah, you really have got to have a V8 in this type of car, but yeah, thank you for inviting me down, Brian. It's been great, and it still is.
I did a lot of development work on the factory V8s, but I was very disappointed not to drive one in anger. But I think it was considerably better than the TR7s. Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you very much.
How about a big round of applause for Brian, taking us through all the rally cars. Thank you very much, Brian.
And so ended another fabulous day at Sherborne Castle. But it wasn't all over yet, because one of the highlights for many is the chance to watch so many historic cars leaving the site. And given that we are talking about thousands of cars in the most beautiful surroundings, it really is quite special.
Wow.